Hi guys, good morning. Welcome to Learning. Am I audible? I'm clear, right? No glitches in my videos? No? Fine. So welcome back to Learning. And you know my name by this time, right? I'm Lavanya, Elangovan, your science educator, right? So how are you all? Yes? Fine? Good? Very good. Learning is an online education platform where we give quality education for all students. Here at Vistaslearning, we help students to stay on schedule, value their time, and also excel in their academics. So do subscribe to our channel. And if you have already subscribed, share it with your friends, family members, and relatives because someone out there will have the access to quality education. Right? So having said that, let's start today's session. So today's session is really going to be an interesting session because I like this topic a lot. Can you guess what we are going to discuss today? Let me show you that maybe. Yes. So we are in this particular chapter, Heredity and Evolution. So we've completed till evolution. So right. So we are discussing something else today. Can you just look at my background? Tell me what is this? This is something looking like a rock. Yes. What is this? Any guesses? We say them to be fossils, right? So what are fossils? What is fossil? What do you understand by this term? So before we just jump into what fossils are, let me show you something else. What is this? Dinosaur. You know this is a dinosaur. Where have you seen this? In zoos? Wildlife sanctuaries? Biosphere reserves? No, we haven't seen them anywhere. We haven't seen them at all. We don't know whether we'll see in our future, but so far nobody of us have seen them physically. Like a cat, like a dog, we haven't seen them. But we know this is a dinosaur. And by looking at this, we'll very well say this is a dinosaur which will eat meat. Right, a carnivore, we can see and say. How do we know it? Because we watched a lot about these dinosaurs in movies, in games, in pictures, right? In dolls. We've seen them like that, like a pictorial representation, like a graphical representation. We have seen them. How did human know that a creature like this existed? How did he knew that? What gave him the evidence of that? How he came to a conclusion, okay, it was like this, because none of the human have seen, right? We are sure about that. Nobody of us have seen it. But how do we know that it existed? In billion years ago, it was there. It ate that way. It seemed this way. It had a long tail. It had very sharp claws. It had a sharp teeth, eyes. How do we know all these things? Yes, some evidence was there, right? Like this particular creature survived on this land, survived on this earth, million years before us. Some evidence is there, right? So that evidence is called as a fossil, right? Such a small term, fossil, but having a lot of history behind, right? As simple as that. Yeah. So when we are looking at the fossils of dinosaurs, actually we got it like this, like bits and pieces. Some places it was bits and pieces. Some places it was the entire organism. Some places we hardly found one claw, one teeth. We hardly found it. But we found something, right? So that something is what we call to be a fossil, right? So this is the definition for fossil. Make a note of it. Fossils are the remains or impressions of ancient organisms preserved by natural means in some medium. It can be of any medium, okay? Somewhere, somehow, it has got preserved. Who preserved? Nature has done that for us, right? Which stands as an evidence to know our history, right? If this particular fossil were in there, we don't even know, like certain organisms like very strange organisms existed. We don't even know about them. We would have not even known the evolution process at all. Yes, make a note of this definition. I'll just read it again for you. Fossils are the remains or impressions of ancient organisms preserved by natural means in some medium. Clear? Right? Shall we move to next? So how did the formation of fossil happen? How did it happen? Some medium, some natural process, right? So there are different processes how a fossil would have formed. But here we will just discuss only one process. One most commonly occurring process. Okay, so this is how. See, this is also like what to say. It's a assumption. It might have happened like this. And it's a truth also, which is there in theories. Okay. Says the dinosaur, here you can see a happy, it's not happy, it's angry, but still there is a dinosaur. Okay, it is searching, so hungry, searching for food. Fine, so there is a dinosaur here. So this dinosaur eventually died. Okay, so as soon as it died, it will not directly transform like this, no? So as soon as it died, what will happen? The soft tissues, muscles will be eaten up by organisms. Okay, like all the scavengers will come feed on it. Other organisms will come eat. Excuse me. Other organisms will come eat it. So at last, what remains? The hard part, the skeleton, the bones will remain. Because the bones are, we cannot eat, not we, but the organisms cannot eat bones that easily when compared to a flesh. Okay, so microorganisms will sit on it. All the microorganisms will start decomposing. They are best decomposers, right? So they will start decomposing it. Good morning, Ashwin. Okay, so they'll start decomposing it slowly. So when by the time they reach their bones also they'll start decomposing, but it'll take a longer time for the decomposition of bones to happen because it's so hard. So what happened, by the time it is decomposing, this particular dinosaur, this entire skeleton of the dinosaur got buried under the earth. Okay, so it started burying, going into the layers of the earth, or we can say like sand started depositing over it, upon it here. It started depositing on it. It can be that way. Or most commonly what will happen is like it will happen in the sea. I'll tell you why. Because sea is something where this particular process happened a lot. The oil mills nowadays, the petroleum refinery, everything is present in the sea only, right? In the ocean only, right? So which gives us the evidence that most of the organism, all this fossilization occurred in the water area, in the water bodies. Because in the land, we have got a lot of microorganisms, other organisms to do this decomposition work. But in water, the sand, this particular sand area is there, right? So this sand will easily overlap because of the waves. They'll easily overlap. And as they are overlapping, it will go deep into the soil. And as it is going deeper and deeper, the temperature increases. Pressure increases too much. With the increase in the pressure and temperature, fossilization happened. We'll also discuss like how exactly this fossilization is happening. But as per now, just have in mind so this happened mostly in the water bodies only. So why in water bodies? Because as it is buried, it is being covered with the sand or the silt. So as it is covered, it is going deeper and deeper. The pressure is increased on the particular bone structure. The pressure is increased. Temperature is also rising. So with the increase in the pressure, it's getting compressed and fossilization is happening. Clear? And eventually, it will turn like this. Like only bones will get. Like it's as I said before, not the entire organism, entire skeletal we won't get it. Sometimes like bits and pieces also we get based on like how decomposition has ended there. Okay, so now we'll discuss the exact process of fossilization. Clear? Yeah, before that I'll just yes. Now we'll just see how fossilization is happening. See here, this is a dinosaur. Dinosaurs bones, okay? So as it is going deeper and deeper under the earth, I said like pressure will increase. And as the pressure is increasing, it is actually present in water, right? So there will be like so many pores into the soil. So through these pores, maybe I'll use some other color. Yeah. So through these pores, the water will slowly flow it will slowly flow. There are a lot of chances, right? Because soil is porous. The sand which is in the water, that is also porous, so water will obviously flow. So here what will happen, the water will contain a lot of microorganisms, I saw. So those microorganisms will help in this decomposition of the bone. So what will happen, this water, the microorganisms will start entering through this bone. And you know very well, like bones also will become porous by that time. Okay, so that particular porous bone, through that particular pores, all the water will slowly enter into it. Okay, so as the water is entering, the microorganisms will sit there and start decomposing the bones. See, this will not happen in 1 month or 2 months. It will take billions and billions of years. Such a slow process. Okay, very slow. So what will happen? The microorganisms will enter into it. They'll start decomposing the bone stuffs, whichever is left over there. They'll start creating a space there, right? So with this water, microorganisms will enter, etc. Along with these microorganisms, the minerals also will enter to it. Is that clear? So as the minerals are entering, so the minerals will start depositing slowly upon this here. Clear? Maybe I'll just erase this and I'll do it again. Yeah. So now we'll be talking only about the mineral stuffs. Okay. The microorganisms came, they decompose everything. They are leaving just a casting, like a cast. For example, when they are making dolls, first they'll do the molding, right? They'll do it like this. So into which the casting will be filled. Right? As it is getting filled, when they remove it, you will get the object. Right. Similarly, the microorganisms entered, they started decomposing, feeding on all the bone leftovers, and they started developing a case-like structure there. So into the case, now only water is there. So water, which is having a lot of minerals, is there. So as the water is evaporating slowly, what will happen? Evaporation is something which will happen everywhere, okay? So as the water is moving out or evaporating or moving to the next place there, the minerals alone will start depositing here and here in this bone and everywhere in this bone, everywhere the minerals deposition will happen, right? So as the minerals are slowly depositing, what will happen? From a bone structure, it will slowly get transformed into a stone. So mineral deposition happens, is there in all the rocks, in the marbles, granites, quartz, everywhere the minerals are there, right? So likewise, it will have its transformation there. So when we are looking at it, the bones as an outline, the bones have converted into hard stones with a lot of minerals there. Not only minerals are there, deposited there, which has been converted into rocks and they are so hard. Clear? So this is how fossilization happens. Slowly. Just by this minerals and microorganisms present in water which is under the ground, which means like which is in that particular area. Is this clear? Yes, like how fossilization is exactly happening. So eventually, slowly what will happen? This entire organism, this entire thing, fully all the water will enter, like fully the water will enter here. The microorganisms will start decomposing the bone particles. Then the mineral deposition will happen. So this entire organism fully, it will be covered full of minerals. And when we are looking at it, it will look exactly like the rock which is adjacent to it. See, when you look at this itself, see, it is just like this rock, right? Because the minerals which is present in this rock and this one will be obviously same. Because they are from that particular place only, right? Yes. So when archaeologists, they are starting digging, finding this particular rock, they'll find this entire organ structure also. This entire organism structure also they'll find. Is this clear? Right? So this is how fossilization happens, or this is how the exact fossils are happening. Some of the fossils. There are other methods also, but this is something which is happening, which happened, or even now it is happening slowly in a large scale. Okay. Yes. So next, here we just have to find like when did this fossil form, and what, like, the exact formation is fine. So when is the question there, like how to find when this fossil. Two methods. One, relative depth. Second, radioactive dating. Right? So these two are the methods, like how to find the date of a fossil. First, relative depth. Depth, you know, right? So bottom, depth we say, right? So that is depth. So what is relative? Relative means you are comparing two. Okay, so relation between. So that is what you say, relative. Comparison of 1 and 2, A and B, like that. So here we are just comparing two fossils that has been formed million years back, billion years back. So how are we actually finding? See, listen, finding the age of a rock is easy for the scientists, right? So with the relation to the rock, they will find what is the age of that particular fossil. When did it start the particular process of fossilization, they will find. So here, when you are just looking at this, I'll tell you. So this particular fossil might be older than this. How? Very simple question. You just have to see it and tell it. How is this fossil older than that? Because this, and even this bone is older than this. How? Because, see, I said like the dinosaur once it died, or any organism once it died, it will start, like it will bury, right? Which means like it will be covered with all the mud or silt or sand or whatever, right? And as it is going down and down, how it is actually going down? Because of the deposition over it, right? On it, on top of it, or over it, right? So that is how it is going down, or it is reaching the maximum depth. So whichever is so deep might be the one which is formed older, or which is older, which is formed billion years back when compared to the other. Yes or no? So here in this case, this one, yeah. So this one might be older than this because it has gone deep. It has reached a lot of depth below when compared to the other two fossils, right? So they'll just compare the depth which the particular fossil has reached. So with that comparison only, they'll find this relative depth or the age of that particular fossil. But for this method, they have to actually know the age of this rock which is near it, right? So, or at least the age of at least one fossil. So if they know the age of this fossil, they can very well relate it with this and come to a conclusion, right? But still, even this method is also, they are using it. The first thing is like relative depth. So relative depth just shows, just as the relation between, the comparison between the depth of two different fossils, two or more different fossils. Two basically. Two different fossils, okay? So whichever is so deep will be so older. Okay, clear? So next, radioactive dating. So what is this radioactive dating? Radioactive element is something which we know, right? So radioactive element is highly reactive element, highly active element. Okay, so that is what we say to be a radioactive element, and one of the most reactive element is this radium, right? So this radium, why do we say it is so active? Because this radium has a capacity to convert into or decompose into directly as a lead. So it directly get transferred into lead. It's not all of a sudden, but still it take years. For example, it will take around 10 to 20,000 years. It will take, but it will get converted from radium. It will become a lead. So those metals or those elements which have this capacity, we call it to be a radioactive element. So another common radioactive element, carbon. So it will get directly converted into nitrogen. It will decompose into nitrogen. It will take years, around 30 to 40,000 years it takes, right? But this 10, I said like 10, 20, 10, 20,000, 30,000, 40,000, 50,000 years are somewhat quick process, right? Somewhat quick. Are you thinking like, oh my God, you're saying 40,000 years, how is it quick? Yes, it is quick. Because look at this potassium, radioactive potassium. So this radioactive potassium will take billion years, but it will convert into argon. Okay, but it will take billion years. And these dinosaurs, they didn't form 20,000 years before, right? They were there on this land, on this earth billion years before. Right, evolution started so many billions back, billions years back, right? So for that case, we have to take this potassium only into our concern, right? So like how much potassium was there previously, how much has it been converted into argon? So that will tell us the exact year, so exact place, like how the transformation has happened or how the fossilization has happened. So that particular dating method, right? So that is called as the radioactive dating. Is this clear? Yes. So here the radioactive potassium is getting converted into argon. Yes. Next. See, I'll just give you one example here so that it will be easy for you to understand. So this is a rock. Okay, so in this rock, some traces of potassium is there. Yeah, radioactive potassium is there. So when we are actually checking of other minerals, we found some very small spot of argon. So now tell me, this is a older rock or a new rock? Don't say like in recent years, just have billion years in your mind. Okay, so like around 30,000 billion years, or just have like 100 billion years. Okay, just have billion years in your mind and tell me, this rock is a new rock or old rock? This might be a new rock. Why? Because there are a lot of potassium and very few argon. So how will this argon come? There is no other way, only from potassium. Only if potassium gets converted into argon can be present in these rocks. Okay, so just like that. So if, for example, I'm showing you another rock, there's very less potassium. There is a lot of argon. So this will be a older rock. Right? We'll say like it is 20,000 billion years rock. But this one, it's like 50 billion years back. So like that we can have. This is clear. So clear with this comparison. So here we'll be checking how much potassium is there and how much of that potassium has got converted into an argon. Right? So with that conversion, we can find the age of the particular fossil, age of a rock as well. This is clear. So these two are the basic methods where they'll be using to find the date of the fossils. Right? So one is this radioactive dating and other is this relative depth. Clear? Yes. Now we'll come to the last segment. Evolution by stages. Right, so you know, like evolution happens, like there are a lot of natural things like genetic drift, natural selection, reproductive isolation. There are so many ways like how evolution would have happened, right? So again, we can subdivide them into two. One, evolution by stage, like stage by stage, generation after generation, it can happen. Number two, artificial selection, where human involves in the evolution process and he does some extra fitting works there. Okay, so two methods. One is evolution by stages, other is artificial selection. We'll just focus on this evolution by stage. Here, what sort of stage? Stage by stage we are seeing. So we'll just look at the complex organ. This is one of the most complex organs. See, not even like high-hand cameras can work like our human eye to focus something which is near and far at the same time like this. Right? And even animals' eyes, they are completely different. Human eye, even compared to human eye. You take the chameleon eyes, it has a capacity to look like this at a time. Simultaneously, they have the capacity. Right? So this is one of the most complex organ which has been evolved. Right? There are a lot of parts here to detect light and all those things. Detect movement. Right? So to sense the near and far objects. There are a lot of methods. Right? So how we would have started? We'll just look at one basic organism. Right? Planaria. See, planaria is a very basic organism, and when you look at this too, they are looking like eyes, right? Of course, they are eyes. They are like very, very primitive, which means like they can detect the light. Okay, so with the light, they can move. So they are something which will detect the light. Alright, so stage by stage, from this planarians, other organisms, they like when they started this evolution process, stage by stage, the reptiles got, the birds got, the amphibians got, mammals got, now human eyes have developed. Right, see, from a very basic structure of this planaria's eyes. It has like from a very basic, the evolution has happened stage by stage, which is reached to the complex thing like a human's eye. Right? So this is one evidence for how evolution has happened stage by stage. Next, we'll just see the same evolution by feathers. Because now all birds are having feathers, right? Why do they have feathers? So with the feathers, they will help in flight. But how the feathers would have started on their body, started growing on their body, which is helping in flight now? Yes. See, listen, we'll go back again to the dinosaur era. See, in this Jurassic era, as per the evidence, what they found is like these dinosaurs will fall under this reptile category, right? But in the dinosaurs itself, there were certain species which had the ability to fly like this. How? How would it have started? See, evidence say that this dinosaurs which were living in extreme conditions, they started developing very small hairs on their body, right? So that particular hairs, they got dense as evolution happened, as stage by stage. What happened? They became dense and they started becoming feathers. All right, from hairs they started becoming feathers there. So what was the basic motive of this evolution of particular hair into feather was like to protect them from extreme condition, maybe the cold or hot, to protect them from heavy or extreme conditions, like an insulation started on their body, which slowly developed. Evolution happened, slowly developed, and now the present stage birds have got feathers. First reason is to protect themselves from heat and cold. Second is for flight. But when evolution started, their motive wasn't to fly. Their motive was to insulate their body. But as slowly, when the requirements was there, like because of natural selection or then genetic drift or whatever it might be, the feathers from body hairs, it has slowly developed into feathers, which is helping the birds to flying up. Clear? So this is how stage by stage evolution has happened. So here in stage by stage, we saw like evolution of eyes and evolution of feathers, right? So next, last part, artificial selection, evolution by artificial selection. So what is this artificial selection? Make a note of this definition quickly. Artificial selection is a process in which human preferences have a significant effect on the evolution of particular species. Right? Where human is getting involved with it. So can you see a background? So one good example is this cabbage, wild cabbage. The cabbage that we are eating now is something which was developed from a wild cabbage. And you'll be really surprised if I say cabbage, broccoli, kohlrabi, cauliflower, everything comes from one wild cabbage. Have you ever thought about this? The cabbage that we eat and the cauliflower came from or evolved from the similar ancestor only, the wild cabbage only. Not just like that, but human, because of the human influence. I'll tell you here. See, wild cabbage, okay? So the first thing, the normal cabbage. The farmers, they started thinking like, okay, the cabbage should be there with where the leaves are completely dense, tightly packed. The distance shouldn't be there. The distance shouldn't be more. They should all be densely packed. So they started evolving, like they started doing research on it, and they developed this cabbage, which we are normally eating, right? So the main motive here, like they wanted the leaves to be very, very dense or closely packed. So that is why this cabbage came to existence. Next, this cauliflower, I said, right? Cauliflower and cabbage came from the wild cabbage only. So these cauliflowers, it's a flower. It's a normal flower, but it is a sterile flower. It is not going to help us in pollination or fertilization or nothing. It is completely sterile flower, just to eat. Okay, so they started developing, okay, flowers are good, but we don't want to do pollinate or we don't want to fertilize them. We want for sterile flowers. So they developed this cauliflower. So next, kohlrabi. This is actually the swollen part in this wild cabbage. Right, where we'll be eating this, we'll prepare a lot of dishes with this swollen part, kohlrabi. Right? So next, kale. See here in cabbage, there it is like the density, the leaves are highly packed, tightly packed or highly dense. There is very small distances between the leaves. But in kale, they're having larger leaves and the distance is also more and it is also edible. Clear? So there were kale. The last one, broccoli, which like everybody of us like to eat this, right? So this broccoli was developed by this particular practice of arrested flower development. Arrested, they wanted the flowers, but they arrested it. All the flowers were like, the flower part was completely arrested from blooming, right? So it was completely developed by this arrested flower development, right? So this is how from this wild cabbage, all this 5K, right, which we are actually using. Now it has become two different something else, but still it all started with the single ancestor only. All this cabbage, broccoli, cauliflower, kohlrabi, kale, everything. Is this clear? So this is a method like artificial selection, how the evolution has happened because of human interference. Next, fine. So in our next session, we will be discussing about the important question answers from this chapter. Right, so it will be easy for you to revise also. It will be like a revision. So I just wanted you to go back, watch all the videos on this heredity and evolution and come prepared for the next class, because we'll be having a lot of question answers in that particular session, right? So just revise this particular chapter, look at other subjects also, look at physics and chemistry, take notes, preserve those notes, revise those notes, right? So until and unless I just meet you in my next session, this is Lavanya Elangovan signing off from Vistaslearning. Bye bye. Take care.